When it comes to anxiety recovery, intentions matter. It's not just what you do, but what are your expectations behind what you do? What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts around it? How do you view the outcome? And while you're dealing with these physical symptoms that are unexplainable by your doctor, where they just say everything's fine, get some rest, come back in 6 months if you're still dealing with this, if you're getting scary, intrusive thoughts where you're losing confidence in yourself, in your mind, your body, you're afraid that this is going to be your life forever, whether you're feeling disconnected, depersonalized, derealized, you might be thinking that the whole point of recovering is so that the symptoms go away, right? I totally get it. These symptoms, when I was going through the anxiety recovery journey, was awful. I would always say, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. And no matter what I did, I couldn't make these symptoms go away. And my sole focus in life was to make these symptoms go away so I can go back to living and hope that I could have a normal, happy life like everyone else seemed to have. And it wasn't until I was able to change this mindset and this understanding of what is anxiety recovery that I was able to make leaps and bounds. And so I really want to break this down in this video because it's a huge pillar when it comes to anxiety recovery. It's one of the first things we talk about when we are onboarding people into the mentorship, which is what does recovery mean to you? And it's not just I want my symptoms to go away so that I can do X, Y, Z. There's so much more. So let's get it started. Now, if you're new to the channel and you are new on your anxiety recovery journey, you might want to know how does recovery look like, what to expect, what are the steps for recovery. I'm not going to be breaking that down in this video. In this video, I'm going to be focusing more around the mindsets and principles around recovery, which is equally as important as understanding the mechanics. But if you want to understand the mechanics of why you're experiencing these symptoms, what to do to make them go away, how does the response look, I'll put a link down below to a desensitization blueprint. To give you a quick overview, basically once you've gotten everything rolled out by your doctors, well, what's happened is that your nervous system has become very sensitized. This happens as a consequence of you hitting a stress threshold and your body responding by becoming more what we call hyperstimulated, which means that it's more on edge. Small stressors will cause an over-exaggerated response. And a lot of the symptoms that you're experiencing are a consequence of that. Now, if you're able to desensitize your nervous system, well, the idea is that your symptoms go away as a consequence. And in the mentorship, this is exactly what we focus on. We help people overcome their symptoms by teaching them how to desensitize their nervous system, but there's so much more to that. We help them understand the mechanics of the mind, how to develop strong frames and mindsets so that not only do they get better, but we can also ensure that they never fall back into the cycle. So if you want to know more, the link is down below. Now, I really want you to ask yourself this fundamental question, and even if you need to, pause this video and really think about this, okay? Be honest with yourself. What's the point of trying to recover? What is your goal? What are your intentions here? Go ahead, take a second. I can almost guarantee you, your role is to make sure that these symptoms go away. You want these symptoms that are so terrible, whether it's the intense physical symptoms, whether it's the scary intrusive thoughts, the depersonalization, derealization, the weird emotions, the tiredness, the feelings of doom, all these sensations, you want them gone. You know for a fact that if anybody went through what you're going through right now, there is no way they could function. And you might feel neglected by your friends, your family, your doctors, people that are looking after you, saying that you're not really dealing with anything and that your sole purpose in life right now, the biggest priority is to make these symptoms go away. And everything you're doing right now is to make sure that these symptoms go away. And like I said, I went through the exact same thing. Anybody that told me that I had to cope or manage with these symptoms, I would disregard. I was solely focused on making these symptoms go away. And if what I was learning was not in relation to making these symptoms go away, I didn't care. I disregarded it. I moved on. I looked for the next thing that promised instant relief or quick fixes or any sort of hope to make these symptoms go away. And if you think about it, this channel is a lot about making these symptoms go away. And while this is a great endeavor and it's important to you in the recovery journey, is that the point of recovery? And the answer is it's not. See, your end goal is to make these symptoms go away. I totally understand. But while you're on the recovery journey, while you're in this process, the goal is not to make the symptoms go away. If you think about it, that's what you've been doing all along. So even if you're focused on recovery, but you're doing everything you can to make the symptoms go away, you're not doing anything very different. The process of recovery is understanding that it is the fighting how you're feeling, the fighting of your sensations, the fighting of your emotion, that's what you're giving up. You're letting go of the fight. The purpose of recovery isn't to make the symptoms go away. The purpose of recovery, the process of it, is to let the symptoms be there. It's to teach you to sit with the uncomfortable feelings and let it pass on its own. It's to recognize that the fighting behavior that you've had to avoid anxiety symptoms or whatever you classify as anxiety, that is actually what's keeping it alive. Do you understand this difference, right? For example, let's say you're wanting to grow a tree and your sole focus in life is to grow a tree. And while growing the tree is the outcome, the process isn't you trying to find a smaller tree and stretching it out, right? Just trying to make it grow bigger and bigger. That's not how it works. The process is learning how to fertilize the soil, give it sunlight, give it nutrition, give it water, really taking care of the environment around that seed. And as a result, that seed grows. But what happens is, it's very similar to what people do with anxiety recovery. They're doing everything to make the symptoms go away, not recognizing the process has nothing to do with the symptoms go away. The symptoms go away on their own. But what most people do is that they try to do something to feel some immediate relief, some quick assurance so that their anxiety can subside in the moment. That's kind of like trying to get a smaller tree and trying to stretch it out. That's not how it's going to grow. Growing it is by placing it in the soil, giving it the nourishment it needs, and that is in relation to learning how to respond to your symptoms, recognizing that it's the fight, it's that habit of fighting that's what's keeping it alive, and learning to let go, have faith, and let the symptoms be there. And as a result, what happens is that the tree starts growing, and then you have confidence. You have validation that, hey, look, this tree is growing. I just need to keep this up. Believe it or not, I'm going to be telling you something kind of interesting. There are people that I know that also help people overcome anxiety, right? And they actually do not like talking about anxiety recovery. They don't even want to talk about recovery. They say it's a distraction. So think about this. Somebody that knows the answer to this still doesn't prefer you to use the word recovery. You might have even had therapists or other practitioners that don't like using that word recovery. And I've had people tell me that behind the scenes too. They say, why are you talking so much about recovery? It's not that recovery is not possible, but what happens is that people make recovery a finish line. Now, the reason why they don't like the word recovery is because mentally people start thinking about, oh, well, recovery means I want to get rid of the symptoms. And what that does is that distracts them from focusing on letting the symptoms be there. So when you're thinking about recovery, the first thing is, oh, I can make the symptoms go away. Okay, what do I need to do to make the symptoms go away? The intent is to make the symptom go away. But if you really break down recovery, well, in order to make the symptoms go away, you have to be comfortable on letting the symptoms be there right now without fighting it, without fixing it, without fearing it, all those things I mentioned in the blueprint. So a lot of people don't even like the word recovery. They don't even prefer it. Now, I prefer to use the word recovery because as a coach and now as somebody who has a program and a system and a team that helps people around the world recover, my focus right now is to meet you where you're at. And where you're at this moment is, what can I do to make the symptoms go away? Now, when we're working with people, we shift that focus. We meet them where they're at, but then we help them step into the right direction. We help shift that idea of, you want the symptoms to go away. They will go away. But right now you need to focus on these things. So I meet you where you're at so that I can take you where you need to go in order to recover. This is so important, and this is why it's so key to be around people that understand recovery, to be around people that are recovering, because even though you can be doing every step right, if you don't have the right intentions, it doesn't work. If you're doing everything correctly in terms of response outwardly, but intentionally you're doing everything to make the symptoms go away, you will naturally see that your frustration goes up. You will always get frustrated when a symptom comes back. You'll be devastated. You'll be destroyed. You'll say, I'm back to square one. If you have automatic thought processes like that, well, it's important for me to ask you, who's guiding you on this recovery journey? Are you doing this alone? Because if you are, well, this is what happens. When you have these blind spots in your journey, when you feel like when you're doing it alone, you're going to have blind spots. That's not just with anxiety recovery, that's with anything. This is why all the best athletes in the world have coaches. That's why everyone, including like the top entrepreneurs or any domain, have coaches. It's ironic, right? The people that are excelling the most always have coaches. Why? Because they're clear that they have blind spots. Tony Robbins, who's the biggest coach of all time. I mean, he's revolutionized the industry in many ways. I don't even know if I'd be able to do what I'm doing if he hadn't revolutionized the space. He even has coaches. But what happens is when you're doing it by yourself, you're missing these blind spots. You're not recognizing that a small thing like intention, what is the goal of making all these symptoms go away? What's the goal of recovery? Well, most people will say, I want these symptoms to go away. And again, it's differentiating outcome versus process. The outcome is making the symptom go away, but that's not the goal. The goal is getting good at the process. It's nourishing the seed. It's giving it sunlight. It's giving it water. It has nothing to do with the tree growing. That happens on its own. And much the same way with anxiety recovery, the symptoms go away on its own. Now, I want to try out a little experiment here, okay? Especially if you've been someone who's been watching the channel for a while, check out some of my other videos, any video. And you will find videos where I'm talking about how to overcome, let's say, dizziness or heart palpitations or whatever it is, and then read the comments down below. What happens is that somebody is so focused on making the symptoms go away, they're so in tune with how they're feeling, and they're so in their head about trying to analyze why they're feeling a certain way, that when somebody's even telling them exactly what the answer is, they can't process it. What you'll often find is me explaining the mechanics of anxiety and then someone just commenting saying, I feel this, this, and this, I'm experiencing this, I don't know what to do. And what's ironic is they're experiencing the same symptom I'm making a video on. Now, the purpose of me telling you that is people are so driven to make these symptoms go away. You will see as you're going through the recovery journey how strong the habit is. And you'll see it especially when the symptoms come back, where maybe you're like at a setback or you're at a rougher day. You will see that impulse of wanting to fight the symptoms or figure it out, it will happen automatically. What that should tell you is that the fighting nature, the fighting habit is incredibly ingrained, and that's going to take time to unlearn. But so much of recovery is not just the response, right? It's the mindsets, it's the attitude, it's the expectations. These are all important in the recovery journey. So I challenge you, really do a self-audit, do a self-assessment on why you're trying to do this. Have your intentions incredibly clear. And as always, I always recommend finding somebody that can help you on the journey, whether that's somebody in your community, whether that's somebody you trust, whether that's somebody like my mentorship team that's guiding people around the world. Well, whoever it is, make sure you follow them and you do exactly what they say. Because if you find the right person, they'll be able to identify the exact roadblock you have, the exact blind spot, and help you see that so that when you make these small changes, you'll be surprised how big of a difference it makes. This is why so many people that have recovered that, I bring on the channel, you can check it out, some of the success stories, I'll put a link over here to some of the success stories. They notice these small shifts that happen that even though they may seem small, they were big blind spots. So I challenge you to focus on your recovery journey in terms of intentions and in terms of mindsets. And if you can really focus on these things, you'll see when you respond, you'll see a much better improvement than if somebody is trying to respond, but they don't have the right mindsets, the right expectations, the right beliefs, the right intentions. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.